I reinvented myself completely from the ground up at the age of nearly 60 after a divorce that left me with nothing but debt. I had married my business partner, and I didn't know when the business dissolved how I was going to support myself. I couldn't go back to my corporate career in software because I was too old. I'd been in an accident and had a diagnosis that I might never walk again. So I had to go through what many people are experiencing now and what you may be experiencing. So how did I reinvent myself? Well, number one, I had to face my fear. We all operate from a lot of what I call welcome to being human stories. I don't know how. What if I fail? I'll run out of money. I had no money. I just had debt. So I didn't even have that. I'd already run out of money. I don't know. What do I do? How am I going to do it? I'm afraid. Listen, I had all that stuff. And it happened when I had a full leg brace on from ankle to hip, with doctors saying, oh, you'll not be able to walk. And for me, I'm an active person. I'm a hiker, 15-mile hikes, 20-mile hikes. Everything that I knew to be true about life and everything that I'd always been able to depend on suddenly disappeared. And this is what a lot of people are facing in the world right now. And if you're listening to this, you may be facing it too. All the uncertainty. If you're here in the United States, we are blasted on a daily basis with news that things that we've relied on out there in the world may not last. So how did I reinvent myself? Number one, I had to face my fear. I had been on the personal development track for most of my life. I had been on the path of the mystic for most of my life since I was a teenager. And I knew really a lot of things. Intellectually, I had a lot of concepts, sacred geometry, multidimensionality. I have a background in psychology. Why do people do what they do? I had to look at me. Why am I responding the way I'm responding? So I had to face the fear. I had to look at the stories that I was telling myself. I had to look at how am I giving these feelings of terror, and I went through terror. What stories am I telling about them? I would have this feeling of terror and immediately start telling a story that, oh, it means that it's going to get worse. We all have a lot of beliefs that we've taken on during our lives. And the older we are, the more entrenched we've become in them. These are what I call the welcome to being human beliefs. I'm not safe. Life's not safe. I can't rely on anyone. That was my story. I can't rely on money. I can't rely on life. What if I fail? I'm not enough. I don't know how. You have some version of these running in you right now, and they never go away. But what we have to do, and what I did was, I would have a feeling one of my stories would kick in, and I would have to say, wait a minute, who says? We have to look at the stories. We're just mostly scaring ourselves to death with the stories we're telling about things that haven't even happened yet. And if you live in the United States, it is likely that this is happening to you. Right now, situations that are occurring in the United States are triggering our old trauma responses. Feel the feeling. Yes, this is fear. This is what I used to do. Yep, here's my old friend fear again. And I would detach from any story about what it meant. I used to say, oh, it's my old friend fear. Come on in, fear. Come on in. Here, just camp out. I am willing to be with you. This is emotional regulation. And for those of us who are sensitives and feelers, and really the whole population, We have to be willing to feel what we feel without projecting it outward and without telling a story about it because it means nothing. It's a feeling. That's all it is. I had to learn how to surrender. What does that mean? Surrender does not mean give up. Surrender means realizing that, yes, there's a part of me that's physical, but there's a part of me, most of me, 99% of me and you is not physical. It's this high speed energy that is connected to every possibility. We are each the quantum field. We're everything. You could think of your intuition as your future self or spirit looking at all possibilities, all probabilities, knowing who you are, knowing what your gifts are, knowing what you've learned in this life and saying, hey, here's a choice, do this, go here. So I had to learn how to give up control. And that is something that we're being asked to do right now. We've got to give up our death grip on control. Control is what our egos do. Our egos are here to focus us in this world of our five senses. Our ego is here to make sure that we don't step in front of a bus or a saber-toothed tiger. But that's all. It has to do with our five senses. But we are so much more. We have intuition. We have imagination. Those are some of our higher senses. So I had to learn how to give up that control when my mind was telling me it's going to get worse. You're going to end up on the street. I had no family. I had nothing. It was me. And so for me personally, I had to learn to trust that life has my back, and maybe you identify with this. So I had to learn to give up control. My guides would tell me, give us the ball. And what that meant was when we're worried, when we're looking at the outside world and making projections that are fearful, oh, this is going to happen, whatever your stories are that come up, I'll run out of money, all the what ifs. It is really like holding this hard basketball against our solar plexus. And so my guides, quite brilliantly, would keep telling me, give us the ball. If you want things to change, give it to us. This is really another way of saying we cannot focus on the problem and experience a solution. You have to give up the problem. You have to surrender. And what that feels like is peace in your body. So at the time, because my situation was pretty dire, I would have to give up control sometimes 60 times a minute. And it got easier and easier. Literally, I learned to rewire my brain with new possibilities, new ways to respond to situations, to the extent that now when there's a challenge, I don't react. We'll always have challenges. Now, my go-to response is, this is interesting. I wonder how this is going to work out. So you have to give up control. The next point is that you've got to be aware of the stories that you're telling. Look, you are multidimensional. I am multidimensional. We are each sitting in the center of the quantum field, and every possibility is available to us. We're the choosers of where we put our focus. I really needed to fortify my mind, my fearful mind, with this fact that, wait a minute, everything is possible now, not just what I thought could happen. Because of the way I grew up and the patterns I learned scarcity, I learned struggle. And my parents were worriers, they were negative. I came into life actually being very successful in my career in corporate sales, but with those programs running in the background, it wasn't fun because I was always looking over my shoulder, waiting for the other shoe to drop, because that's how I grew up. You might have grown up that way too. So I had to realize that, wait a minute, I am the quantum field. I make up the rules, and you do. And what you say goes. This journey of reinventing ourselves is really pretty simple. We have a problem or we have a situation that we don't prefer. And energetically, it inspires something different in us. I, at the time, was running on all these survival fears. What do I want? And then we have to give up control. Fear is just pointing you back to a program that's running. Fear is pointing you back to a decision you made about life by the time you were 7 years old. I can't trust life. I never get what I want. I'm not enough. Things don't work out for me. We all have these stories. So the key is to know what's running in the background and then look at, what do I really want? And not from what's going to fix the situation. We look at what we would really love. If everything was possible, what would I love? If I could be, do, or have anything, what would I love? If I could share my gifts with the world, what would I love? Make it limitless. Most people are creating their lives from lack. I don't have money and I want more money. Our subconscious always resolves tension. That tension is, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm doomed. That's what I thought. Feel that, and that tension in your body. And until we learn to pivot into, well, I know what I don't want, or, oh, that's my pattern that I'm here to move beyond. We learn to move beyond that and go, what would I love? If everything was possible, what would I love? We set our GPS on where we're going, the final destination. And your subconscious will automatically, without you doing anything, will resolve that creative tension. But what do most people do? They eat, they drink, they watch TV, they complain, or they just numb out. They do anything to resolve that tension. So nothing ever changes. They're still focused on the problem. I had to be aware of my energy. I had to be aware of, what am I breathing life into? Am I breathing life into what I don't want? Am I breathing life into situations in my life and the world that I don't want more of? And when we are free of those triggers that we have that hijack us, it really is just a decision. We use, again, one of our higher senses, our will, and say, no. We make a decision. No, I am not going to participate in anything that brings my energy down. I can't afford it. And I couldn't afford it. At one point in my life, when all this mess was happening, I had an electric bill of $168, and I had $134 in the bank. I waited to do this work until I had no other choice. But that's kind of what we do as humans. We keep doing what feels comfortable and normal, even if it doesn't work. So I set up a situation in my life where I had no choice. Decide. What do you want to breathe life into? It's that simple. And then decide what you want. I had no idea then at that time what I was going to do. I had a career in corporate, high ticket sales, multi-million-dollar deals. I managed people. I managed long-term sales in technology. I was too old. I couldn't go back. Was a partner in a real estate development company. Lost everything in the real estate crash in 2008. I had no idea what to do to move forward. And that's where many people are right now. I hear it from my clients. Well, I've always wanted to do this, but I just don't know. Have hope and faith that even if your mind doesn't know what's next, your logical mind, the greater part of you does. You were birthed by divine mind and you exist in it. Divine mind is ideas. It was difficult for me to learn to trust that an idea, a brilliant idea, would land at the perfect time, just when I needed it. And maybe you're that way. Right now, if life feels like you don't know what's next, hang in there. This will change. We are all being course corrected, redirected. I see it in my work. I'm co-authoring a book right now. I'm doing coaching. I'm being directed into more of what feels really fun for me. Ideas come in, opportunities show up. That's how it works. Trust now. If things seem fuzzy, the clarity will land. You might be learning right now, as I did, how to operate as a multidimensional being. Our brain, our logical mind, receives ideas, receives insights. And you will do that when you get out of reaction mode and get out of this mode of judging things as right, wrong, good, bad, and get out of believing your old patterns, fear. The other thing I did was to realize I am the quantum field. Everything already exists. If you've listened to Dr. Joe and others, Greg Braden, 10 years ago, people were talking about it. 15 years ago, not as many. But now this is pretty common. Everything already exists. Time is the illusion. Your past is a memory. Your future is a memory. And you're sitting in the center of it all. Your higher self has the ability to tap into everything. So I had to remind myself when my mind came up with a story that said, you're too old. It will take too long. It's a really common one. I don't know how. It will take so long to learn how. I don't have that much time. Those are the stories that I used to have, and a lot of my clients do too. But when we understand time doesn't exist, everything exists now. If you can translate a desire into thoughts, that's 99% of the deal. There's only 1% left for you to actualize. And the other big one is I had to look at what do I really love? I'm here for service. And most of the people that I work with are too. You're here for the tribe. And it doesn't mean that it's not about you. Many of us that are doing this work now of anchoring in this higher consciousness, our lives are about us, but not really. We're here for the tribe. Most of my clients, as I use the tools that I use, human design and gene keys, they're here for the tribe. Their why may start out to be, oh, I want the money so my husband and I can travel and I want to make a difference. But then we go to, okay, you have all that. You have lots of money. Now what? We go to the now what? And my guess is that for most of you who even listen to me, that you've got that bigger why for the tribe because it's so important right now. But I didn't know what that was. I just took one step at a time. I would get an idea and do it. And then the next idea would come in. What ended up happening with my financial dilemma was that I surrendered completely and said, okay, whatever. If I'm going to be on the street, because that's what was in my thoughts, okay. And as soon as I let go of that tug of that rope, like with a tug of war, As soon as I let go of that rope, things started to happen. Several $100,000 came in the most amazing ways. There was no logic. It's crazy. It's crazy. My leg healed. I still have metal in it. I went back to the doctor. I'd been working with it energetically. And my doctor said, I have no idea what you're doing, but keep doing it. I've not had to have those extra surgeries. I'm fine. It's as though nothing ever happened. So I had to give up this control of the ways that I thought things worked. The other thing is, I had to decide what the rules for my life are. What are the rules? Everything always works out for me. Everything is here to serve me. I always get what I want. Everything lands in my lap. I'm always guided in every way. I can't mess it up. The better it gets, the better it gets. I impact lives. I don't need to have the details worked out. I used to be a perfectionist because of how I grew up, because of the criticism. You may be too. That's all it is. It's just growing up where you weren't praised, and most of us weren't. So one of my rules is I don't have to be perfect. Whoever needs to see this will. So step by step by step, by giving up control, by trusting that there's a whole lot going on that my logical mind cannot even begin to understand. Now science is proving it. Now physics is really explaining all this. Quantum physics, the quantum field is pretty commonplace right now. The key in this is regulating your nervous system, because that's everything. I talk to a lot of people and they know a lot of stuff. They've done, you name it, Dr. Joe, retreats, Seth material. I'm a big Seth fan that Jane Roberts channeled in the 60s and 70s, was way over my head then. They know so much stuff. They know the New Thought authors, Neville Goddard, all of them. But they still don't trust that they are the creators of their lives. They still do not trust that they get to choose. So this emotional regulation piece is the most important. When fear or doubt come up, realize it's just a messenger. It's here to show you that you have a belief running that's not in alignment with the rest of you. And when the fear comes up, you feel the feeling. What's the story? And then you create a new story. And then you put this new story on autopilot. Some of those things that I just mentioned to you. Everything is so easy. Life loves me, and it's so easy, and I have so much fun. That's what my life is like now. This is how I recreated myself when I was 60. Step by step, I did whatever felt interesting. I started a group on Facebook. I talked about galactics. I have a lot of memories in other timelines, including off-planet ones. So I started to do work with people and said, hey, give me some. I learned to trust myself. I learned to trust the rest of me. And I am telling you that right now, this is the greatest gift that we could give to the world. We have mirror neurons in our brains. When we talk about something that we overcome and did, somebody else says, oh, I can do that. Where before they said, that's not possible. So that's why each of you who are listening to this, you're here to model something that makes it easier for somebody else to live through these chaotic times that we're living through. I'm recording this at the very end of February, and March will likely be even more chaotic than we've ever seen. So much stuff is coming up that we would prefer not to acknowledge. But we have to acknowledge it in order to know what would be better. I don't care how old you are not too old. I have clients who are older than me. For many of us, our life experience has been the very thing that could help somebody else when we share it. Or maybe your music is changing things. The vibration of music and art are vibrational frequencies that bypass the brain, go straight into your nervous system. Maybe it's time for you to expand that. We don't need to know how. The how lands in your lap. I would invite you, step away from the gloom and doom. Step away from the doubt. I would invite you to question your doubt. What if you could trust life? You can. What if grace really is a frequency that you can count on? And it is. Life is here to love you. And if you are thinking anything else, it's just a story. This is the time when we are all being asked to reinvent ourselves to be the true us, who we are beyond the fear, lack, and limitation programs, and to really become this bright light that life has shown us we can be. It's time to say no to the things that you don't resonate with, or look at them and decide what would be better, and then focus on that. When you know you're the quantum field, that's how it works. You focus on the version of reality that you prefer. You become that version of you. And then everything to make it happen unfolds. It's just that simple. Thanks for listening. If you haven't hit subscribe, do that. This is such a powerful time on the planet to step out of all these old stories and to choose what we'd like to see in the world, and then stop saying, "Oh, little old me, oh, I can't do anything." One person at a time, we change the world. We take action knowing that what we want is already done. We take action from love, not from fear. We do just what I did. I would get up every day and ask the rest of me, okay, what are we doing today? Do that. Learn to rely on the rest of you, which can bend time and space. All right. Thanks for listening.